Welcome to another episode of China Update, where I provide you guys with the most up-to-date political, economic, and geostrategic analysis on the world's number 2 economy. My name is Tony. Let's jump in.
Okay, happy Monday everybody. I hope you had a good weekend and have a productive week ahead. First up, we discuss an important development in the ongoing technology war, conflict, decoupling, whatever one wishes to call it, between China and the United States and her allies. Late last week, US financial media outlet Bloomberg, in an exclusive report, writes that during a now leaked April presentation by the Semiconductor Industry Association to its members, discussed 5 companies Huawei has set up in order to rebuild its chip capacity despite tight US restrictions against the telecommunications gear maker. The Semiconductor Industry Association believes that Huawei is building secret chip plants in China in order to bypass US sanctions. It claims that Huawei moved into chip production late last year and is receiving an estimated $30 billion in state funding. Bloomberg reports that Huawei acquired at least 2 existing plants and is building at least 3 others, adding, quote, "The SIA presentation has set off alarm bells at member companies and within the Biden administration since it was published. The United States is weighing more stringent export controls on China," end quote. One commentator pointed out that Japanese financial media outlet Nikkei Asia had a long story last December discussing Huawei's relationship with several of these companies. Quote, "So these moves by Huawei have been known for many months, not just by industry, but also by the Biden administration," end quote. And another commentator pointed out that, quote, "The timing of this leak just days before Commerce Secretary Raimondo heads to Beijing seems unlikely to be a coincidence. My understanding is that Commerce has been sitting on additional Huawei-related export controls for a while, and this Bloomberg story is likely to raise the pressure on the Biden administration to do more against Huawei," end quote. Coincidentally, with the publication of these SIA leaks, PRC Premier Li Qiang was making an inspection tour of Guangdong and Shenzhen, visiting companies including Huawei and hosting a symposium, with a major theme being technology self-sufficiency and innovation. At the symposium, the Premier expressed, quote, "It is crucial to vigorously promote technological innovation, increase investment in basic research, utilize major innovation platforms, cultivate innovative enterprises, accelerate the digital transformation of the manufacturing industry, and provide robust support for building a modern industrial system," end quote. Part of this push to close the technology gap will involve enticing talent from around the world to come to China with their expertise. UK-based Reuters reports last week that the controversial 1,000 Talents Plan has been rebranded into the Teaming Plan and is now in full swing, but keeping a low profile to avoid the suspicion of major overseas governments that the 1,000 Talents Plan received. A Reuters review of 500 government documents spanning 2019 through 2023 found that, quote, 2 years after it stopped promoting the 1,000 Talents Plan amid US investigations of scientists, China quietly revived the initiative under a new name and format as part of a broader mission to accelerate its tech proficiency," end quote. In an exclusive, the outlet reports that the revamped recruitment drive includes perks like home purchase subsidies and typical signing bonuses of 3 to 5 million yuan, or $420 to $700,000. 2 unnamed sources speaking to the outlet expressed that the program, quote, "recruits from scientific and technological fields that include sensitive or classified areas such as semiconductors," end quote. It will be with programs like this, combined with billions of dollars in government support, by which Huawei and others will attempt to catch up in several advanced technology fields. Next up, the Chinese economy. Hey everyone, if you enjoyed today's episode of China Update, don't forget to hit that like button. It's a huge help for the channel. Sharing and subscribing also help too. And for anyone who can go the extra mile, Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee links are in the description below. Thank you so much, everybody. for the ongoing support. Regular viewers know all too well that China's economy is facing tough headwinds as policymakers attempt to balance the need to maintain robust growth with several structural challenges, from a housing crisis to high levels of local debt. It appears that outside the country, especially in the Anglophone world, there has been a collapse in confidence in the Chinese economy too. Just a few years ago, the mainstream view was that China would soon surpass the US as the world's number one economy. Now, the outlook is much more grim. Almost every day there are articles and opinions discussing China's difficulties and the worsening outlook. Not all of these are high quality or even particularly accurate. However, some are, and also give us an idea of how China's economy is being discussed in elite English-speaking circles. To end today's video, we will look at extracts from 3 recent pieces from outlets chosen for their quality in analysis and how widespread they were consumed. Regular China Update viewers should find many of the themes within these articles very familiar. Before we begin, however, it is worth me explaining my own personal view in relation to the Chinese economy and its outlook generally, so that viewers understand my own biases. I believe that the Chinese economy is currently attempting a very difficult and painful transition from a now obsolete growth model to a slower but healthier and more sustainable new growth model. This is resulting in a long-term structural slowdown in Chinese economic growth, and if this transition is mismanaged, it could result in a crisis or crash, long-term stagnation, or both. I believe stagnation is the greater risk of the two because China has the tools to prevent a crash. Outside of an extreme black swan event, like a war in the region, I believe full economic and/or political collapse still remains highly unlikely. While it is theoretically possible for China to make the transition in its economy successfully and continue to maintain very high growth rates, I believe this is also unlikely. In saying all of this, these are simply loose views based on following analysis day by day for years now. I am not wedded to any of these views, nor are these views connected to my emotional hopes or desires vis-à-vis China and its economy. I, like many of us, are simply trying to understand, and I am always reviewing these views as I am presented with new information. On this channel, too, I also try my best to present a wide set of views, data and analysis from a wide set of sources, whether I agree personally with them or not. Okay, with my own biases out of the way, let's look at how the English-speaking media elite are discussing China's economic issues. The first piece is from US-based financial media outlet The Wall Street Journal in an article called China's Crisis of Confidence in 6 Charts. The piece argues that while China's economy is currently facing several difficulties, quote, the key problem might boil down to household finances and, just as important, everyday citizens' deeply shaken confidence. End quote. It explains that China has a serious debt and productivity problem, especially in the state-owned and local government sectors. But that has been true for years, and what really is new and notable about the current slowdown is the combination of especially weak consumer prices, consumption, services sector investment, and property investment, and that all of this points firmly at households. The piece adds that reduced willingness to spend and take risks by families also undermines other parts of the economy in self-reinforcing ways. Quote, consumption directly and investment indirectly, because household borrowing, mainly through mortgages, has long helped keep cash-strapped property developers and local governments above water. End quote. The second piece is from UK-based Reuters, called China Has No Pain-Free Solutions for Its Slowing Economy, which, I would argue, correctly identifies the structural issues within the economy and unpacks the nature of the difficult trade-offs facing China and its policymakers. The piece writes that consumers' reluctance to spend is the result of an economic growth model from the 1980s that many say has relied too heavily on investment in property, infrastructure and industry, and not enough on empowering consumers to earn and buy more. Adding, quote, But while faltering growth in the world's number 2 economy has given rebalancing a new sense of urgency, transferring economic resources to households would require difficult decisions that would cause even more near-term pain. Specifically, boosting households' share of national income would mean a decline in the share of other sources, either businesses, in particular China's sprawling industries, or the government sector. End quote. Of course, we have heard this idea before. Quote, the wealth and power of local government, business and financial elite often depend on control of assets. One of the really big conflicts is likely to be between Beijing and the local governments over how to allocate the various adjustment costs. That will become one of the most contentious political issues over the next 2 years. End quote. And the third is the cover story for the current edition of The Economist, called Xi's Failing Model, Why He Won't Fix China's Economy. The UK-based financial outlet explains that, quote, our cover story for this week looks at China's economic woes. The economy grew at an annualized rate of just 3.2% in the second quarter, a disappointment that looks even worse given that, by one prominent estimate, America's may be growing at almost 6%. With its government making bad decisions and centralizing power, China is entering a period of disappointment after 4 decades of fast growth. It is testing whether more autocracy eventually damages the economy. The evidence is mounting that it does. End quote. Okay, that is today's episode of China Update. Thank you so much everybody for watching. Have a wonderful Monday, have a productive week, and I will see you all tomorrow.